All right, let's start. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm Ekaterina Litvinova, and I'm working with Materialize as a functional analyst. Today we'll be talking about the quality of the software product as to its functional feasibility. I will tell you how we come to this issue in our team, and I hope that you will also understand why you need this as a topic. Come on. Meet Freddy. Our product is a medical order management system. As a company with 3D printing, 3D printing of implants, we help doing medical operations and help make the world healthier. The product in our today's incarnation has started 5 years ago, and it's fully isolated. So the end users, surgeons, and the users, the sellers, they are not our clients, they are clients of our partners, of the producers of the implants. Our product has always been built on complete mutual trust between the product management and the team. Should the product team management say that the feature is needed, so it be. Even if we haven't talked to the end consumers. Early 2017, the product manager changed and was replaced by an acting product manager. But you all know, the acting manager stayed for a year, and the acting product manager, we trusted him even more. This was the head of the department of medical business. Our backlog was refactored. Absolutely. Some of the features were just thrown away on his order because he thought that these features were never used, which meant that we've implemented, tested, supported some features which have never been used at the end of the line. While searching for a new product manager, we asked ourselves, what are the objective quality criteria of a product manager? We basically started to doubt if he was really necessary, and we wanted to find out how we evaluate the future product manager that we have on board. In our product, in our project, we had always wanted to evaluate it retrospectively, but this does not mean that you need to do this on your own project. So let's have a look at the criteria on when the retrospective analysis is needed. First criteria are the requirements which are contradicting to each other. Say you have a sales manager coming and telling you that the sellers will need to have a new order creation form. You implement this, you release this, but another manager comes to you after this and tells you you have to open the list of all existing orders so that the sellers maintain these orders, which means that there is an analytical error. mistake made in the very beginning, and you have to review and correct this. The second criteria are strange support requests. You were contacted by someone and he says, I've filled out every possible information, but the order is not being created. Is it because maybe you thought that the field is required but should not be, or is this a person which should not have permissions to create an order? You have to do it all again, right from the start. Another possible threat is complete silence. You've released the project, and there is not a single question for a specific feature. This could be because the UX is top-notch, or maybe the users just did not find this functionality or just don't need the functionality, which is worse. You may have no contact between you and the end consumers. This may be because of the agreement, which in our case, or other reasons. Like in B2C, there are lots of customers, lots of Gmail users, for instance. There are millions of them. And choose a representative subset of people who you should be asking is really very complicated. And yes, business can change. After a year, it always makes sense to take a look at the current implementation. If it really aligns with reality, with the real business processes of the company, maybe it's already derelict. These are the criteria helping you to understand that every project needs retrospective analysis, one stage of development or another. So let's talk about how this retrospective analysis can be made. We should not reinvent the wheel here. We have a lot of techniques as analysts to gather information. We can have an interview. We can have analysis what the competitors make. We can make a survey. If you can interview, if you can make a survey, I'm very glad, I'm very happy, but please do this regularly. Regularly contact your consumers and ask them if they like what you've implemented. At least a limited subset of it, but we didn't even have this possibility. We couldn't make a survey of the surgeons, because this is what the agreement prohibits us from doing. So we started to try to figure it out ourselves. As we have a medical product, we had luck. A regulatory requirement for a medical product is having audited key changes in the system. So when creating or adjusting orders, we have to save all the information on who did this. If some surgeon makes an incorrect cut, so that we can understand if this is a surgeon's mistake or our mistake. We have not had those dealings in our history, but we do comply with this requirement, so we can tap into the data which we have on hand. So what are the data we could obtain internally? It's not only the medical products which need audits, it's also the banking industry, for instance. Or this could be voluntary audit. Or, as in our case, this could be a regulatory requirement as well. To make a surgical operation and to plan it accordingly, we make a 3D model of the area in question. For this, we needed different pictures made in different ways. These images, these photos have to be loaded by the surgeons, by radiologists, by our customers, by assistants of the surgeons, and so on and so on. There are a lot of sources. And at some point of time, we were contacted by a partner, and the hospital told us we don't like the authorization every time. Let's load into the cloud.
So, and the AI will decide itself to which order, which images, like based on patient or other identifiers like the surgery or knee or something. So he can match some criteria, it can match some criteria, and we won't have to do anything at all. So actually, to implement this project, we needed to spend quite a lot of resources. We had it, but however, we doubted whether we actually needed it. We analyzed our own statistics, and we found out that for like in 70% of cases, our engineers upload the images. And based on this dry fact, we can draw two conclusions. The first is that surgeons, they don't want to use computers. It's boring for them to upload the images, or they just don't know how. And the second point is that we have to upgrade our interface because it was inconvenient. And there are two conclusions, and based on these two conclusions, we needed to take completely different measures. So we didn't invest into a big project, but we just launched a pilot project. The AI, which would otherwise distribute images and link them to various orders, it was a person instead of AI. We just made front end, and in order to confirm or to reject our own hypothesis. So through this service, we uploaded only a couple of those, although we had hundreds of orders. Even without the authorization, the surgeons were not eager to go and upload the images. And then from a third party, we received broad feedback. You forced me to work with this IT system. I don't want to work with computer systems. I don't know anything about the informatics. I just want to operate on people. And our hypothesis that they just don't want, they were not eager to, it was right. So, but let's think whether our analysis, which we made, was systemic. What happened? We had a problem. We started to look inside this problem, inside ourselves. We drew some conclusions. We got some ideas. We checked it, and this is not systemic. We decided that systemic means regularity. Let's plan that after the end of each project, after 1 month, let's make retrospective analysis, checking whether our current project was successful. Okay, we planned it. We sat together after a project, but we had no input data, nothing to analyze, or at least we lacked data. Not enough data was there. So we decided to change it. The regularity was not enough, and we decided to add to the analysis phase, to the responsibility of an analytic, the point that he had to add metrics of the project quality being implemented, and the developers have to develop, have to implement it. So we started to broaden our idea with each project, and the system worked quite well. However, there was one small remark. Quite soon, this input data was not enough as well. Why? Because let's look at a specific example, a specific case, which made us think and progress develop further. Each sustainable, long-lasting system includes some technologies which become obsolete. We have an online system, and we earlier maintained Internet Explorer, all the versions, but at the same time we had to it had to be compatible with the new browsers like Mozilla, Chrome, etc. And we asked ourselves whether we can stop using these legacy technologies in our project. This was connected to the fact that we had to upgrade the controls of image upload, and the new technologies were not supported by the old Internet Explorer. So we asked ourselves, how many other external users who ever used Internet Explorer and have never used other browsers? So who of our users, for whom of our users is it critical to use only Internet Explorer, and for whom will it be difficult to switch from one browser to another? Why I focus so much on that? Because, you know, in a hospital it's very difficult to update an office system or a browser. And some hospitals, they refuse to do that just because it's difficult for them. So, and we have not found changes of this data in the audit. So we asked the developers to collect statistics on that matter, just to understand what was going on, what was the who was actually facing the problem. And the architects, developers said, okay, let's build a full-scale system for collection of events in the system. Not only audit changes, but data collection system to collect data about the users. How does it work? Our architectural platform, our architects decided that it will be Arctic Stack. So Elastic Stack is just one of the options, but we selected this one. So it works in a browser, and some fragments of JavaScript send data at some interval to the server, where it's saved in Elasticsearch database. And then an analytic and project and product managers using Kibana can access this data. Kibana is not the only way to access this data. You can always upload it to Excel and to compare it with data from other sources, or to make a more complex frequency analysis. So we're not limited here. And after we deployed this solution, we had to decide which data about our events we have to collect, so that after the event is over, we can filter out the old data to understand the timeline, the sequence of the events. That was the first thing. Then the type of the event. There are different types, like placing an order, for example. One of the first events in our system was order placement, also using some menu items. So there are a lot of different types of events. I will tell you more about it later. Also, for our purposes, we use the type of the object with which the event is occurring. Is it a hospital or something else? Like to collect data in a more aggregated way. The fourth is the user. Here, well, on the one hand, here we want to collect as much data about the user as possible. On the other hand, there is a GDPR restriction, there is a privacy which we cannot violate. And so based on our experience in European and US markets, so GDPR based on the GDPR and US version of GDPR. We are not going to break this rule. We collect data using the identifier for user, based on which it's not possible to identify the user. But we have data about the role, how he accessed it, from which country, is it from US, Australia, or Belgium. It's important for us. Also, I think another important thing for everyone, the type of device. Is it desktop, laptop, mobile, or OS, Windows 7, 10, XP, the browser, version of the browser, and some specific data. Well, as far as the specific data is concerned, we got plenty of those. For some events, it was just which menu item was clicked, but in other events, like uploading of images or file uploading, it is file type, size, time of upload. There are a lot of specific different data, and in each system there will be quite unique data depending on the specific needs. And the set is not static, it's dynamic, depending on which functionality is there. When we add some new functionality, we have to extend the set with specific data for the new events. So the example of visualization in Kibana, so this is the distribution of events by types from our events from our test database for the last 90 days. This diagram, to build it, it takes only a couple of clicks, and in Kibana there are options, very good options for visualization and data analysis, and we always have possibility to upload it to Excel and to work with them in a way, an interface familiar for you, or you can send the data to make the analysis with the more complex mathematical models. Well, it's always interesting for us, we are analytics, so we need as much as possible, we want to cover as many requirements as possible with the less investment possible. So that's why the question was for us, which exactly events we have to analyze. And we decided that these are the key events, events connected with the updated functionality, events connected with the newly developed functionality, and also the events which are completely absent in the changes audit. Why the audit? Because we want to save money and efforts, and we have it in the audit already, and we can get it from there and merge them. And in our particular project, when we just deployed the platform, we collected only 3 types of events. Those were the event of order placement. In our system, neither of the actions or events connected with the system work cannot be done without order placement. In order to upload images, do anything, you have to open the order form and place it. So that's why we had to understand which exactly browsers our users apply, and in order to stop using Internet Explorer, we, for this particular case, we also collected data through the order placement form. And also we knew that in the next project we will have update of our image upload function, and we had to collect as much data as possible. And in the current project we had to update our uploading function, optimize it, because Australian users complained, and we needed to collect data, how it works. So 3 types of events were revised in this first case. After the release, we waited for the new data, and then with the new product manager, we sat together and generated a backlog of events that we had to collect. It was quite big, we prioritized it, quite a classic approach, and within the year we completed our backlog. Now we have more than 50 types of events, let alone the variations. So more than 50, and now we add new events only in case we need to develop the new functionality. So currently we don't have plans to add events just for the sake of adding it, so we don't need it. So you are probably interested what's been done and how much it costs. So we understood and formulated our needs, not needs of some customer who sits somewhere else and does something, but needs of our particular team, of our analytical department of 2 people. We have selected the instrument with the support of our architect, and we deployed it, analyzed and tested. So how much did it cost? So BA and architect spent several weeks to make primary analysis, 1 week for deployment, and then for each type of event, 1 day for each type. So 1 day, it's quite an average estimate because there were small events, like 10 in a bundle, and like, for example, clicks of menu items, and there were events like uploading images where there are a lot of specific data and we have to implement all of those. The average estimate, nevertheless, covers everything done. So how does the work process of an analytic look like? Now, when a product manager comes to us, we try to not to trust him by word, but we check all his hypotheses, epics and features. We check whether they are matching the real life and him about the real life. So we have started to do something that normally a product manager does. Well, before implementing the project, sometimes we have some conflicts. We say that we need it, he doesn't want to implement it, etc. So, but this is a normal way of negotiation between members of a team. It's the world we live in, so it's always like that. Also, I'd like to stress the word "we try." I say we try, but the new functionality, new features, they can be so new, so innovative that we wouldn't have data to check them. So there are 2 options in this way. If it's too expensive, then we say, okay, we have to implement this and that parameters, we will collect statistics, and let's get back to this issue in 2 months. Or if it's urgent and we have solved it already, then we can implement it without the confirmation bar statistic data. So, but there is no other way. Then an analytic, along with what he does normally, like setting requirements, defining requirements, he has to define which parameters have to be collected by the statistics, or which of the existing events have to be extended. So the analytic works, and this phase he can invent more than needed. And sometimes after the developers review, these metrics can become smaller and can be implemented more efficiently. This is collaboration of team members, teamwork. And the only thing which is worse than absence of data is incorrect data. And months after the project is completed, we make an analysis. This is the example of how it all works. As you know, in order to plan a surgery, we need images. But in order to build a 3D model based on the images, we have to make QC. This QC of images, like checking whether they meet some specific criteria, earlier it was done by our engineers manually, but around a year ago, business came to us and said, well, let's save money. We can make part of the checks automatic. Let's check on the customer. Like in the browser, you inform the surgeon that you have uploaded the screenshots of the desktop instead of the images. Especially secretaries of surgeons do that. Or you uploaded left knee instead of right knee, or shoulder instead of a knee. So it all can be checked at the moment of image uploading. And the product manager said, okay, let's do it. After we made the primary analysis, we understood that it's still too expensive if we cover everything. So we checked the statistics, so we understood that 60% of users use Chrome, and we can, even in the first MVP project, can support only the Chrome, one browser. But as Chrome was the most popular, it was the Chrome. So we included metrics into the analysis, and as far as the events of image uploading was concerned, we checked whether the check was done or it was skipped, why it was skipped, whether there were some attachments.
We could not check, or this was a different browser. If the pictures are not uploaded, then we registered the event that pictures were not uploaded because there was a list of the different reasons. Was implemented. Then the QA testers found several bugs. We released them, and here we need to be patient because it's a new functionality. The feature is on only with one partner. There are very few cases. So after 2 months after project going live, we only understood that this thing works. Only after 4 months is that we could understand how it all works. So we could have a relevant subset only after 6 months, but we now came forward to our product manager to include this functionality for different partners with minimal configuration. Next, we have also presented him with the idea how to upgrade this functionality. And a future project planned by business should not be implemented according to our data because it wouldn't generate any profit. The comparison of patient names was to be implemented, but this was a costly project, and the money savings were really minimal. This was a very huge and very pleasant effect, which was only done due to the retrospective analysis for a single feature. On top of this, we also built some pilot projects. We always start with the MVP. If this pilot project really did not lift off, it can be scrapped easily. And next we can argue with the project managers, say that Silverlight and Internet Explorer should not be supported anymore because the percent of users is now less than so and so. Because our costs of maintenance are much higher. And we also contacted by product managers from our different teams, which are integrated with ours. And they've asking us for data, how the users interact with the products. Those data gathering, data collection projects are planned for different teams as well. But there are also drawbacks to this. It's quite obvious. Nothing is ideal in the world. First of all, this is all about money, implementing new features. It's always a question, either we implement a new functionality, a new feature, or add a new parameter for data collection. The analytics are also support this new stats, adding new stats, because, well, we support it because this enables us to make informed decisions. This is what we'd say as business analysts. The next hurdle is that there are always projects going on, and we don't want to step back and to focus on something which has been done long ago. Doing it regularly is even more challenging. But we plan this, we sit down, but the plans are not always fulfilled. Like, we didn't have enough data to build our conclusions after 2 months, only after 4 months. So we had to force analyze this after a certain time. Even if those hurdles are too much for you, you should gather stats either way, because it helps in an emergency. This helps when you are confronted with a feature, with a new feature that hasn't been tested yet. And after proving the hypothesis, you then know that this hypothesis is really correct and is working. So what do we have? As conclusions, first, knowledge itself is power. This is knowledge about how your product and the users really work with your product. Next, time is money. And you have to start gathering statistics today so that your tomorrow's solution is better than the yesterday's solution, so that you're focused on what your users really want. Data are useless if no one takes care of them, no one pays attention to them. If you're simply collecting data and do not want to deal with them, that makes no sense. The fourth thing, you never know what hypothesis will be proven by the data you collect. This way I've just described, this is a long, a tedious and a complicated way of data collection, data gathering. But this is a way to a really, really top-notch product, and this is what inspires us. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, Freddie, for your kind help. Are there any questions? Go ahead. Thank you very much for your talk. My question is the following. Before collecting the stats, do you set any benchmarks? What do you expect? And if yes, how do you define those benchmarks? Thank you. Thank you. This is a very good question. It's only in the one case that we set a benchmark. when we were implementing the data collection on picture upload, our quality criteria was that the number of those rejected, the percentage of those rejected, is at a specific level. We have reached this level either way by setting additional parameter after speaking with the business, but with data collection, it's generally not possible to set benchmark that a user should be clicking several times in the menu or move to another tab after clicking it. We treat this as a source of information to take a look at and to determine what do we next. As of implementation, no. We'll take a look at it later. Could I please take this question? We have no automated testing currently. The QA just sits down and tests this manually. I've clicked this and those events must register in the database. We of course wanted to automate this, but we're not there yet. Behind you. Yeah, the last question, please. I try to be brief. Didn't you have, or you are a product manager, have the wish to treat the gathered data as a proof of what you want to be proven? If you have doubts, we look for additional data. We look for additional stakeholders to look for additional data until we are really sure that we mean what really is. Then we have the change audit, which helps us prove hypothesis and match them between each other. Okay, thank you very much, Ekaterina. Thank you all.